Hello everybody. In this video I want to give you guys some guidance for doing the graphing mass and volume section of this week's lab. We're in report table DSG.2 calculations of cumulative mass and volume. And what's happening here is we are figuring out by placing pieces of metal into a cylinder and looking at how much water it displaces, what the volume of each piece is, and we're massing each one, and we're going to add them over and over to the overall thing, and getting more and more mass and more measurements, and then we're going to graph them out. So we start off with, for each one of the additions, 4 of them, we start off with the mass of each piece. Okay. Then we have an initial volume. This is our initial volume of water. And then we have the volume of the water plus the piece. And we're asked for the volume of the piece. And this is a simple subtraction method like we've done before. We're just going to take this volume and subtract this volume, and we're going to place that here. Then we have what they call the cumulative mass of the pieces. And we're going to place in here at first, after one addition, just the mass of the first piece. This one is going to be the mass of the first piece plus the second piece. That's the cumulative part. Then we're going to have whatever value we got here plus the addition of the third piece. And then we're going to add in the fourth piece. Down here we have the cumulative volume of the pieces, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have these volume values. We're going to start off with just that one. Then this guy here is going to be this value plus this value, and then we're going to add in the volume of this one, and we're going to add in the volume of this one. And if you guys didn't quite follow that, that's fine, because now what we're going to do is open up our Excel. And I am going to copy into Excel all of these values. So, through the magic of video editing, I've copied over all the data from LabFlow into Excel already. If you're not familiar with how to do that, all you do to enter text or a number into a cell is you just click on it, and then you can start typing out text. And then whenever you're done, you can hit enter and move to a different cell, and you can enter something in there. One thing I do want to mention is that Excel isn't going to let you, it's not going to let you do math if you have a number and letters in the same cell. So up here where I have addition 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm not going to do any math with those, that's fine. But if I were to say put the units at the end of these numbers, it's not going to be able to handle that. So instead you put the units over here in parentheses so that we know what the units are for each one of these numbers. You'll notice that I did copy over the title because it's a table. It does need a title. And one nice thing that you can do if you want to make this look real nice is you can hold down the shift button and then push over a couple of times until it's over all of those. And then if you come to home here, you can click this merge and center button, and then we can have our title merged right across our whole table there. So now for so we set up the table. How do we do math using Excel? So the first one that we want is we want this cell to contain something. Okay, so we're going to input an equation. The way you do that is you first hit plus, and now Excel knows that you're going to put an equation in there. This cell is supposed to be the volume of the piece, which is going to be the volume of the water and the piece minus the volume of the water. So what I ultimately want to do is I want to take this number and I want to subtract this number from it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on that number, and you're going to see that it automatically put in a value here. It puts in B5. And if I go up to the top here, I can see that this is, in fact, column B. And then if I come over here, I can see that it is the 5th row in column B. And that is what it's saying there. It's saying that cell is B5. And then what I want to do is I want to subtract from that this guy right here. And we can see that that one is in fact B4. And so now I have the expression for what I want to be in that cell, and I'm going to hit enter. And it puts the value in there for me. Now I could go here and do the exact same thing and input the numbers and click on them and stuff to just like I did with this guy using these two values. But I don't actually need to do that. Excel's a little bit more clever than that. What it actually is going to let me do is just go to the very corner here where my cursor turns that little cross, and then if I hold that and I pull across and then let go, it already knows what to do. It knows to move to this column or this column or this column and do different math each time. So this one would, in this case, would be E5 minus E4. I can always look up here to see what is in each one of these cells. Now for this guy, we want the cumulative mass of the pieces that we added. So we have the mass of each piece, but we want the cumulative mass. We want to add them up as we go along. So in this cell down here first, I want this to equal, and it's just going to be this guy because I've only added one piece. It'll just be him. And then I'll hit enter. You can see it copied down that value for me. Now when I come to this guy, I want this to equal this old number plus the second piece that I added. Whose mass is right up here. So I can hit that guy right there, and then I can hit enter. Now, the way that I have defined this now so that it's always going to be adding this one to this guy crosswise, I can go back here and drag this across, and we'll get the cumulative value for each one. So let's start off with that. This is plus 55. This is that number plus 61. This one is plus 45. That all checks out, makes sense. And all that's left to do is do the same with the volume of the pieces. So I will hit enter. I'll look over here, which one is the volume of the piece? It's this guy. And then I'll hit enter again. And then I'll say this guy equals this cell plus this guy here. I'll hit enters on that. And then I'll drag this across. Now, if any of that was confusing and you're having trouble following through with it, you can always do this math yourself outside of this using a calculator and then just input these values in here. You don't necessarily have to, for this assignment, use Excel, but you should get comfortable with it. It is a very powerful tool used in math and science and all kinds of other fields. Okay, now that we've managed to fill out the rest of the table, we need to figure out how to produce this graph like you see in our experimental PDF, where we have volume along the x-axis and we have mass along the y-axis. We've graphed out each one of these points for all of our cumulative data, and then we're going to figure out what this line is that should fit through them all, and then we have to figure out what the slope of that line is. So the slope is the rise over the run. So the rise here is going to be mass, and that's going to be divided by the run, which is volume, and we know that mass divided by volume is density. So this slope here is going to be a measurement of our density. So making the graph is a little tricky, but the way that I've always done it is to arrange your data like this, where I have X, Y. So whatever it is that I want to have in the X, I will put to the left of the one that is in a Y in a column kind of format like this. And you can see I've labeled them X, Y. And all I did is just copy over the data from over here. The first thing that we're going to need to do is add our 0, 0 point. So we'll make this 0.0, make this 0.0. You can see it didn't quite display them that way, but that's fine. We have our 0, 0 point. Now to make our graph, I will start in the top left. I will hold down the left mouse button and I'll drag down to the bottom right of all these values. Then I'll come up here to the Insert tab. And then I will go to this little symbol right here inside the Charts pane. I'll click on that. You can see it says Scatter. Sometimes they call them XY scatters. And I'm going to pick the one that doesn't have any lines connecting it. So I'll click there. Now the first thing that you can see is that it added all of our points for us. The volume is down here. It's going from 0 to right around 23, our highest value. The mass is over here. It's going from 0 up to 207. That's our highest mass value. So that makes sense, but we don't have labels on them. So the first thing we need to do is add some labels. If I click on this, you can see it brings me to chart design up here. I like quick layout. I'll click here. And I usually just go with this first guy right here. Down here, I will give it the label just like it appears up there. I'll come over here. And then finally here, I will just give it a title. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And I actually don't even need this. So I'll click on there and I'll hit delete. Now, how do we get the line and the equation that's going to give us our slope? So the easiest way I know to do that is to click very carefully on one of the points, at which point you'll see they all light up along there and get highlighted. Then you can right click on it, and in here you're going to see add trendline. On some of the newer versions of Excel, there's this little guy right here that pops up. You can click on there, and then you're going to see the trendline option right here. That was not always on all the versions of Excel, but it is there now. If I click over here, I can go to more options, and I have a whole pane over here of options. And one of them is going to be, if I can make it bigger, to display the equation on the chart. And then you typically with that are going to want to display this R squared value. So the R squared value is going to tell you how well it fits to a line. It fits perfectly along a line here. But if one of these was a little up or a little down from the line fitting right on it, it would be less than 1 here. We have our slope right here. And we can just copy and paste that right into Excel. 8.9644. You don't want the X, you don't want the equals. And that's it for that. After this, you can go ahead and hit File, Save As, save it somewhere on your computer, and then drag and drop that over to LabFlow and upload it.